Hello, everybody. I am so happy to be here today, and we're going to work together on learning the Sha'ar HaBitachon, the Gate of Trust, and we are going to be learning the Selig edition version of it. Link is in the WhatsApp group. Feel free to ask again at any time. You can get it on Amazon or at your local Judaica store. We're going to start with the introduction of the book, the foreword, actually. We're going to start with the foreword. And I think the foreword, I didn't read the first time I learned this book, and I went back and I read it, and it really explains beautifully why we're here. So I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Lily Aronin, and I know so many of you have gotten to know you intimately over time. Some of you are new, maybe heard about this class from a friend, but I have now finished this book 4 times, almost 5, and I have so much more to learn. So I am not going to be teaching this class from a pedestal. I'm going to be teaching it on the ground, trying to learn and implement this from the very, very beginning. And a beginner just like all of you. And I want to tell you how has changed my life. As many of you know, I'm a holistic nutritionist, and now I like to call it a holistic therapist, nutrition therapist. And we heal the relationship with food and the body. And one of the things for me that was the hardest about not just losing the weight, but really keeping the weight off, which is so much harder than losing weight, is fear. Food is my comfort for stress. It's my comfort for uncertainty. It's my comfort for loneliness. It's my comfort for all the things of discomfort in the body. And while we're learning, when you learn how to eat, it's like a top-down approach. You intellectually know it, it's hard to do it. When you're healing yourself, you have to go from a bottom up also. You have to work on breath work and yoga and tapping the way you feel in your body. And so I'm going to invite you guys to take kind of that same approach to what we're going to learn here on the spiritual side. This book is all about where top down and bottom up meet in your heart. Because the promise of having bitachon or trust in God is that you're going to have a sense of calm purpose. And calm is like a bottom up feeling. It's a sense in our body of feeling taken care of, feeling calm. It's a physiological state of being, but feeling also of service is kind of an intellectual thing. And so we're going to get to different ideas here, and some of them are going to be uncomfortable because we're going to be like, yeah, I totally have the mindset of the person who doesn't have faith. I don't know how to get my body to the place of someone who has faith. And I can say the words and I can think the thoughts, but I'm not feeling it. And so I want us to discuss, and I want you to send me messages, and I want this to be a conversation. Okay, wow, I really managed to feel it today. Yeah, today I thought it and I worked on thinking it and thinking it, but I wasn't really feeling it. Whatever it is for you, because that's how I find that my progress has gone in this journey. Is now I think about this stuff all the time, but I don't always feel it. And I have to always be like, okay, the bitachon thing to do in this situation would be this, and I don't feel safe. I don't feel ready. Okay, God, can you help me get myself to a place to feel ready? How can I work on letting go of this fear? How can I trust what I know the right thing is to do and do it anyway? So that's a little bit about the way I view the way we're going to go into this course and the way we're going to learn together. So we have our WhatsApp group, and that's where I'm going to put the Zoom link every week and where I'm going to share the recordings, and it's free. Feel free to share it with whoever you'd like. The recordings will also be on YouTube, and we're going to do this with a bent on health and wellness because I'm a holistic therapist or nutritionist, and to me, everything comes down to also our relationship here. He talks a lot about money and health, because health is wealth. So we're going to get started. We are on the forward, so it doesn't have a page because it's like forward, page 1. A superior relationship with God. The power of the Jewish nation to survive the tumultuous terrors and temptations of history, and its ability to thrive and revive repeatedly is due solely to its unique connection with God. This uniqueness is impaired on an individual level as well as it is enshrined in the tales of our people, which are replete with saintly and simple individuals alike, displaying almost superhuman characteristics in terms of restraint, tranquility, selflessness, and similar qualities. In short, the Jewish reality is beyond belief. Not only is it a testament to the eternal covenant with the Creator, but it is also an accomplishment far greater than can be acquired with belief alone. All peoples harbor beliefs, but the depths of the personal Jewish connection with God can transport an individual to an entirely different reality. The Hebrew word for this superior relationship with God is bitachon, which in this context is translated as trust. It also means security, confidence, reliance, and certainty. A person who seeks to remain calm and relaxed and focused at the most trying of moments, or one who seeks authenticity or advancement in their personal relationship with God, to serve God in the way He truly wishes, and to perform the duties of a Jew accurately, will strive to live with bitachon. Okay. Just mute yourself just in case because I'm hearing myself. Okay. So we're doing the forward. This work explores bitachon in depth. It is an extraordinarily lucid and useful manner. It was penned in the 11th century by Rabbi Bachya ibn Pekuda, the leader of the Jewish community in the Iberian Peninsula, Zaragoza, and still remains relevant today. Chovot HaLevavot, that's the name of this series of books, was published in Aramaic vernacular, familiar to the Jews of that region as part of a larger book series called Guide to Duties of the Heart. A century later, the guide was translated into Hebrew under the familiar title Duties of the Heart, Chovot HaLevavot. The fourth of these 10 sections, or gates, is the Gate of Trust, Sha'ar HaBitachon, which we're starting. Despite the enormous library of Jewish literature assembled over the centuries, Sha'ar HaBitachon remains one of Judaism's foremost descriptions of our ability to climb the transformative point whereby our relationship with God becomes at once powerful and empowering, beautiful and life-changing, relaxing and invigorating. Throughout the years of his leadership, Jews from all walks of life turned to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for advice, counsel, and guidance. The Rebbe would often encourage those he noticed and needed a boost in their trust to learn this book even a few times. This has been our primary motivation from the very beginning, driving this book forward. And there's a beautiful letter from the Rebbe here, and it has also a section here about the sources for all the commentary in this book and for the insight. I'm going to skip ahead to where it says Judaism's expectation of thought and feelings on the next page. The expansive compendium, Chovot HaLevavot, from which the Gate of Trust is drawn, was created to fulfill a literary lack on the Jewish bookshelf. Rabbi Bachya perceived the bulk of our obligations are associated with actions. They are the matters that we must do, we may do, we cannot do. But the Torah simultaneously instructs us regarding our beliefs, our thoughts, and our emotions. However, such duties are far overwhelmed in number by the action-based commandments. It is the latter which has received the lion's share of study and literary focus. The author refers poetically to action-associated obligations as duties of the limbs. By contrast, he describes the obligations involving the mind and emotion as duties of the heart. I'm going to ask everybody to just check that you're muted, please. Rabbi Bachya felt that the duties of the heart had not been adequately presented to the average Jew, which is why he wrote it in Aramaic or Arabic instead of writing it, in Hebrew. Despite the critical role played by these obligations is that they inform and inspire and guide a Jewish choice in the quality of their actions. Excellent. Everybody's muted. Great. We would expect his literary correction of this oversight leaves us with a detailed and highly accessible roadmap to the Torah's vision for the Jewish heart and mind. Such is the setting in which the author begins his treatment of our trust in God. Now, I just want to give you guys a little modern context here. We know there are so many self-help books out there today. And in fact, so much of modern psychology is based on this thought of belief, thought, emotion, action. And maybe if any of you have read any personal development books, or you've ever worked on yourself or read any modern pop psychology books, Grit or Better Than Before or The Key to Happiness, they all talk about this, but we have had it in this text for 200 years, where he said, no matter how many, actions or, you're worried about your personal observance of mitzvot, if you don't know why you're doing it and you don't have the proper feelings about this relationship you're building with God, they're going to get lost. They're not going to have the impact on us and the impact of a relationship that we want to have with God. And for me, I found that this was really missing in my relationship with God. I always felt like I needed this, but I didn't know that there was a real text that would bring it forth in such a very clear way. So we would believe a classic book of faith to encounter elucidations of our beliefs and insights into God. But what I put a little star here, if you scroll down, it says, such belief and awareness, however, form the ramparts of faith from which the gate of trust are suspended. We need to believe that the greater our reliance in God's infinite omnipotence, omnipresence, his providence, his compassion, and his trustworthiness. I'm interested to open this up just for a quick discussion. How many people here, when they have a vision of God, had like a stern, forbidding father or somebody who's going to give out consequences and kind of like you have to reward and punishment, very clear system. I have to earn love. I have to be worthy. I have to really struggle in order to get God's love and to get blessings in my life. It's not just going to be handed to me. Nothing is handed on a silver platter, right? I grew up in that generation. I don't know. I'm just curious. Did anybody else grow up like that with that kind of image?
I did, but I changed. I got a bigger God.
Yeah. So it's something here that is giving us an opportunity to go into that relationship. So instead, the author assumes that if we are starting this book, we are already engaged in a spiritual journey. We have already discovered fresher steps in our travels to the utility of studying and meditating upon God's providence and greatness. He trusts that we have at least these basic tools at our hand: a belief that there is a God, a belief in divine providence. We like to call them like a God moment, right? A belief that God cares for us, a belief that God is compassionate, and understanding that we are here to serve God. Therefore, God already features in our routine mindfulness. The gate of trust will show us a way to harness these tools to generate bitachon consciousness. The greater the force with which we apply these tools, the more magnificent our bitachon, the less anxiety we experience, and the greater the blessings we will receive. This work is a portal to the superior consciousness and outlook of the person of trust. Here we are trained to surrender our unlimited and subjective understanding to the compassionate and all-knowing God. Just saying that this is one of the hardest things that I find in this work is the surrender, right? The surrender to somebody, to somebody who obviously knows more than me and obviously coordinates everything in a much more controlling way than I can or would want to even. And so I have this part like has a little star by it by me. I'm gonna even underline it this time. The goal of this training is to forge a deeper bond with God that also translates into tangible blessings, so that our lives begin to parallel God's ultimate goodness. For the same reason, the author does not instruct us in the art of prayer. The person of trust already prays. And remember, we say prayer doesn't have to mean, words from the Siddur or the prayer book. It means in conversation with God, in fulfillment of God's command that each Jew pray to him for his or her needs. Instead of tools of supplication, the author urges us to lift up instruments of commerce and craft, to seek employment, conduct business, or master a craft. We are led to the realization that God placed us in a physical world as partners to play crucial roles in executing divine missions. We firmly believe that God can choose to sustain us with no effort on our part. But we also know that it's most likely not our purpose, because God desires that we operate actively in a physical workplace. In this way, not only does our engagement in material affairs not contradict our absolute trust in God, but to the contrary, it is the medium through which our trust is displayed. We discover that trust is not only a powerful prayer, but a post-prayer calm and engagement with society. It is expressed in our perception that God is eager to fill our lives with blessings, and more specifically, to pour blessings into the concrete receptacles that we have prepared in terms of career or employment. Now, he wrote this book, a lot of it to think about people's relationship with money, but throughout the book, he talks about people's relationship with their health, because he assumes that you know that this is so obvious about your health, it might not be obvious to you about your money. But we live in a generation where there are so many diets out there and so many gurus out there and so many people telling us to eat and be healthy in completely contradictory ways, that we forget that we need to interact with our body and our health in a way to know that God is going to give us our set amount of days. It's going to happen. The quality of our life, the quality of our health, the quality of our relationship with our body and with God, that our body is that spiritual receptacle that's going to do all this work in the world, that is where we are partners. And that's where we have to have a calm. And for anybody who's here and has ever worked with me, I'm assuming that sometimes you, like me, don't feel calm about your relationship with food in your body and your health. Maybe you feel a lot of anxiety about your health, about your quality of life, about your quality of health as you're getting older. So this is exactly the same thing that we need to be applying in that area of our life. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because in this next section, he says, all who trust believe, whereas may believe and without trusting. For faith, emunah, is not trust. Rather, faith is a tree and trust is the fruit. The fruit is proof positive of the tree's existence, but a tree can flourish without bearing fruit. Similarly to trust in God, we believe in his existence and abilities, whereas trust cannot serve as a prerequisite to faith. So one of my absolute favorite analogies that I use all the time is, I want you guys to close your eyes for a minute and imagine a circus. Have you ever seen Cirque du Soleil, or you've seen a circus in a book or a movie, and you have the tightrope walker, and you're sitting in the stands, and you're like, oh my God, they are so skilled. They are so amazing. They're doing flips. They're walking around in this house. They're holding on and spinning in a million different directions and popping back on top and walking around on it like it's nothing. Wow, that's amazing. They can do that? Of course I believe it. They're not going to fall off. It's like, oh, it's exciting to watch such superior excellence. But would you get on their back on the tightrope? Do you trust them enough to jump on their back and be like, let's do this? You got this. Can you do that spin with me on your back? Like, can we try that? I'd love to see. No, we don't feel like that. And so when I'm having a really difficult moment, what I really work on, and again, I'm speaking to me this time the same way I'm speaking to you. I do not have this all together. But when I notice I'm having like a lot of food cravings, or I'm looking for something to eat because I'm stressed, not because I'm hungry, because I'm dealing with a difficult conversation on the phone. I'm in the middle of a difficult conversation with something else. I remind myself, whatever it is you're dealing with, this is your tightrope right now. And I try to imagine myself holding on to like the tightrope walker's back, like arms and legs, like crossed, like holding on for dear life. And like, okay, I'm going to surrender. Like, you got this. You walk us to the end of this, like really crazy tightrope we are on, because I can't do it. I can't do it by myself. And that is a completely different way of looking at challenges to how I used to look at them, which was, okay, I got this. What tools do I need? How many more things do I need? No, I mean, I still got to get the tools, but I need to do it like I'm walking on his back. He's saying, okay, Lily, now we're going to take 3 steps to the right. And I'm like, okay, sure, we're going to do that. Okay, sure. You take the steps. I'm going to hold on right here. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, gather the things I need for this situation. And not quite at the level of relaxing and calm on his back. But then I try to think about, if you were sure that this is totally safe, like how could you try to feel safe in this situation that doesn't feel safe? How could you try to feel a little bit safer? You take a few deep breaths. That's the difference between faith and trust. It's a visceral thing that you're going to feel day to day, and it changes hour to hour. Like sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I so feel like God is designing this. He's got this. Look, things are just happening left and right. I'm on his back. Woo! And sometimes you're gonna be like, oh my God. And you're just like holding on for dear life. And sometimes you feel like you're falling off the tightrope because you forgot that you were on his back in the first place. And so this is one of the most important things that's going to underline all the work that we're going to do. We're on page 13. Faith insists that all we have come from God and all the success of human effort depends on God's will. Trust, on the other hand, is an absolute reliance. We know that God will certainly provide. One of the biggest struggles I know I struggle with and people struggle with is the other shoe dropping. That the other shoe has to drop because good things aren't really meant to happen all the time in this world. No, trust says everything that is coming my way is good. We know God's gonna provide good, even if it's not something I see at this second. Faith can remain oddly detached from reality. A burglar poised to penetrate the victim's home pauses to pray to God for his assistance in operating undetected. The thief has faith that God exists and sees all and listens to prayers and cares and determines outcomes. Nevertheless, the burglar's faith is detached from reality. If only he had trust in God, he would live with God and place his affairs in his hands. Thievery is in defiance of God's will and would seem as utterly preposterous as it truly is. And we all struggle with this dissonance like all the time, right? Like it's just true. We don't feel it like we're a burglar, but a lot of times we speak without thinking, we judge people, we judge ourselves, right? We aren't as careful with so many things. Speaking to myself first, and it's just putting this front and center in our mind. Faith informs us that all that God does is ultimately good. If we experience the opposite of good, our faith is our comfort and strength to continue. Trust, by contrast, is our knowledge that God's goodness will certainly reach us in a matter we can readily appreciate as good. Our trust is so strong, it is enough to actually reach up and elicit that good so that we experience it as an overtly positive experience. I'm just curious, we can raise a show of hands, or I'd love to hear after the class, send me a message, send me a note and group. Has there ever been, something in your life that you can think back on? And actually heard a beautiful story from somebody I work with, and she got married very late in life, and she watched all her siblings get married first. And she said that she had to watch her parents be so happy for her siblings and not happy for her, like, and sad for her at the same time at all those weddings. But she married like the most amazing man, and they have such a happy marriage. And like, it's just could not have been better that it came at the time and the right person in the right place and the right thing. But at the time, like she wishes she could go back and like tell them, like, no, like everything, this is good too. The fact that I'm not married at this wedding, this is good because it's coming for me at exactly the right time. And so what I want us to do is to try to, Brene Brown has this beautiful concept of collecting other people's trust moments and putting them in a mental jar, right? And when we have a relationship together, everything you do that's kind and good to me, it's like a marble in our jar. And that's how much of myself I can share with you. But is there anybody that puts more marbles in our jar than God? You woke up this morning, all of the organs in your body are working. You can speak, you can think. There are people in your life who you have a relationship with. Every single part of that is a gift from God. Those are all marbles in our jar. And the more that we appreciate and see those marbles, it gives us more faith and more trust when marbles are coming in that look a little ugly, that look like pieces of coal, and we're not quite sure that they're going to be marbles yet. Faith is constant. A Jew is a believer by nature, whether or not that faith bears practical relevance to the situation at hand. Conversely, our trust is awakened and exercised specifically in the face of challenge. And this means that, right, we only get to exercise trust when we're not sure if this is something that is overtly revealed good. But it's okay to ask for it to become revealed good. It's okay to ask us to work on ourselves and to ask God to reveal it as good more and more and more speedily. Every year on Holocaust Remembrance Day, one of my very best friends, her grandparents are survivors, and thank God none of my family was personally in the Holocaust. We were in America beforehand, and we were soldiers, American soldiers in that war. But she tells the story that all of his great-grandchildren live in Israel. And when he was still alive, he owned an apartment in Israel, and he would see some of his grandchildren lived here at that point. And every day on Holocaust Remembrance Day, he would throw a barbecue, a party. And he said, we are dancing, we are singing, we are learning Torah, we are, having a barbecue here in Israel. And we're laughing in their faces. That he who experienced, who was in the camps, who was in everything, saw the revealed good in the end. And I can't say that because I wasn't in that situation. Only a survivor can say that. But to me, it just makes me cry every time I hear her tell that story every single year. And when she texts us that they continue this even after he has passed away, to do this as a family on Holocaust Remembrance Day, to count every grandchild and every great grandchild, and to really celebrate life, I think is incredible. Neither is trust synonymous with hope. Hope is a light glimmering in a tunnel's darkness, a lifeline cast into churning waters, whereby we picture a path out of our suffering. Not so trust. Bitachon springs into action in the tunnel that is utterly without light. It roars to life in an ocean bereft of coastguards. When nature irrevocably seals our fate, our trust wrests the wheel from its hands. Hope offers no guarantees. Lifelines snap. Glimmering lights are extinguished. By contrast, a person with bitachon remains certain of deliverance. Perhaps the most striking and palpable feature of trust is the calm it provides. In the author's words, it is a peace of mind that the person who trusts in his heart's reliance on the one in whom he is trusting, that will do good and the correct thing for him, according to his ability and knowledge of what is for his good. So we have a little bit, we have let's say we have 30 minutes left. So we have two more sections that I put like a star on that I wanted to try to cover today. But I'd like to pause for a second. And does anybody have a story or a thought or something they'd like to share? A question? Feel free to unmute. Feel free to raise your hand. Anything? Okay, how's this going so far? You enjoying? Okay, great. We are on, it doesn't have a page number here, so I guess if that was maybe 12, we're on cementing a bond. And you guys could read this yourself, but we're going to skip down to the bottom here in bold. Well, faith builds trust. It is the trust, once established, that defines a person's lifestyle and outlook. We know that we are in God's hands, and there is nothing better for us than that. We are one with God, and we surrender ourselves along with our worries and our fears to his benevolent guidance. And I just want to point out here, that doesn't mean we're not scared. We have fears, we have worries, we have anxieties. We're living in this world. But then we recognize that God created nature, so he's above nature. Nature is just like the setting at a play set. And the person in charge, the director, can move, this background and put in a totally another background, right? To us, it feels and looks real, but he's above nature. So no matter what, we can always say, hey, I don't like this situation that seems to be natural right now. I want you to do something. Do something about it. I trust that you're doing for my good, and I want it to be revealed good. This is one of the most important sections. So I hope we can get through this section right here. Challenges of trust. To our mortal perception, God is not readily apparent within our everyday experience. We may believe that everything that exists is a part of God because there's nothing else but his reality. We may believe that he controls all and therefore all is truly good. But if we cannot appreciate it as such, there remains, however, an irreparable clash between our beliefs and the stark reality surrounding us and within us. Genuine trust is the product of tremendous effort. It is a lifelong endeavor to maintain our trust despite hardship and setback. We must believe deeply that all that happens for us is for our good, despite the limits of our moral perception of that goodness. And we trust completely that all will become good in a way that we can indeed appreciate. This requires not just putting aside our intrinsic and human perspective, but also our egos. We surrender everything to God and trust him absolutely. Rather than feeling restricted or deprived, this relationship fills us with a wonderful sense of liberation and security. It is ultimately empowering. But how is it possible to achieve? The simple response is determination and training. The spiritual reply revealed in the teachings of Chassidut is that the natural spark of trust already exists buried within us. We each harbor a divine soul, and at its purest core, it is intimately bound with God. The art of Bitachon is to excavate deeply enough within ourselves to unveil the part of us that is one with God, and to continuously tap into its infinite reservoir so as to maintain our tranquil trust. God responds in kind. When we awaken our essence, he reveals his, which presents a radical break from that routine relationship with the Creator, whereby God hides himself in nature and points to the unnatural is unlikely to occur. God himself is infinitely beyond the natural rules. He is also infinitely beyond the spiritual systems that are designed to provide proportional responses to our deeds. Therefore, God can choose to deliver impossible blessings, even while allowing nature to remain securely in place. Can anybody think of a time in your life where you really, in your heart, like you were awed? Something so much better that was really unnatural happened. My daughter told me that she was just on a trip and they were jumping off these cliffs into these pools of water called Mayanot here in Israel. And she shows me this video. She's like, Mommy, don't get scared. But this was a miracle. You see where I jumped off this one? You see this one here where I slipped and fell off? I was this far from hitting my head on 80 rocks and dying. I'm like, oh, thank you, honey. She's like, no, but God saved me like this. It just, it was in her natural vernacular to see God. And I give credit to this book and that I've been studying it with my husband, one page every single day for now a little over 18 months. And so it's a conversation. She's hearing it said out loud. She's hearing us talk about it. She's hearing us learn it. That God is involved in the most minute, tripping and falling. He's waiting to be revealed in that kind of thing. Salvation can occur when it seems impossible, whether or not our heavenly score sheet considers us deserving. This is God's response to our powerful bitachon in him. Okay, we have 10 more minutes. I want you guys, we're going to continue. I'm going to skip. You should read the Science of Bitachon on your own this week. But we're going to continue, skip ahead, turn the page to where it says the purpose of creation. Our sages taught us the purpose for which God created all that exists. It is that he desired a dwelling place in this low realm, our material world. God seeks to express himself completely within a realm that is apparently the furthest possible from him. So when we talk about our physical body, when we talk about eating or making money or spending money or our charity work or our family or the money we're spending on food or the kids' clothes or summer vacation or retirement, this is where we're supposed to be talking and thinking about God. This is the entire purpose of having these challenges, is when I'm eating, when I'm moving, am I healthy enough to be a vessel for God? What can I do today to be a healthy vessel for God? What can I do today to spend my money in alignment with my values? When I'm spending money, am I thinking about, I'm doing this in the service of God? If I have to spend money on food, then it's going to be food that's going to be nourishing to body and soul and in a way that's building relationships. Maybe I'm making a meal that I'm sharing with friends or going out to dinner. Am I going to elevate this experience in some way? Am I going to be conscious? If I'm buying new clothes, am I just buying more stuff? Or am I appreciating the beauty of the body? Am I appreciating the beauty of that I get to wear beautiful things, that I have clothes, that I have everything I need and more than I need? Are we bringing God into these very physical conversations? To achieve above, creating a lowest realm that appears devoid of God's presence, in which godliness is challenged, God drastically conceals himself. For it is to the revelations and clarity available to the higher spiritual realms that were available to us, it would undermine the purpose of creation for us to seek God out in these areas. As a result, we find ourselves naturally more inclined to pursue selfish desires and needs than to attach ourselves to God through study, sacrifice, and internal toil. And he uses the word sacrifice and internal toil, and they're not like the most sexy words, right? We don't love sacrificing. We definitely don't love toiling. But there are times that it feels like sacrifice for a minute to not just jump into fixing everything yourself and to be like, okay, if I had trust in God, would I go about this a different way? If I knew that I have to take action here, but that for sure, no matter whether or not I'm successful, it's going to be good. How would I go about this? If the pressure eased off a little bit, how would I go about doing this? Would I be a little more kind about it? Would I be a little less controlling about it? What would I do differently? Okay. And sometimes it means not doing something we want to do, or it means struggling with how we should do it or what we should do in thinking about things. And we encounter no short of external obstacles and distractions, right? At the same time, God is not as distant as we might assume. His oneness is the creative power that sustains the existence of the world. Every act of faith, every time we overcome a hurdle or a temptation, with each mitzvah performed with a material object, food, your body, right? Every time you do a workout, every time you eat food, every time you make a blessing, every time you go to the bathroom, you connect with God on a profound level and strip back another layer of concealment, allowing the godliness that is always there to unite with our reality. If anybody has ever had a stomach virus, you all of a sudden take going to the bathroom to a whole nother level of appreciation of when everything is working. And then we get better and we forget, right? If you had an ear infection, if you've ever had, God forbid, a pneumonia, you forget what a blessing it is to just breathe, to just breathe. However, that bond is not fully revealed until the global mission is completed, the era of redemption. So there's never going to be perfect. But every time we make an effort to think about it, we're serving their entire purpose of creation. That's pretty freaking incredible. With Bitachon, we are not intimidated by the concealment, by the fact that obviously it's not obvious. It spawns challenge and hardship. We know it has a purpose. We also know it has limits. We can connect with God himself, making him our entire focus. God's very self utterly transcends all concealment, even if it transcends the revelations. God has no restrictions to take into consideration. We're going to skip to where it's in bold here. Through Bitachon, we rip the veil of concealment and say to God, I see you. We thereby invite him directly into our reality in the most powerful and inviting way. When God accepts the invitation, everything becomes possible. And we're going to continue to the next bold. To live with bitachon is to tap into the infinite power within ourselves and therefore connect with the infinite of God, who has the ability to do anything that he desires. And that is the end of our forward. And we are going to start section 4, the gate of trust, introduction, page 2, next week. I would love your feedback as to what was really great for you, what you enjoyed about the class. I really want them. I'm just doing this because I'm so passionate about taking what I do on an everyday level in my work of helping people with their body and their food, and having you guys realize that whatever you do on your own it's a godly work. It's a work that's connecting you to your creator. No matter how many pounds you lose, every day that you get up and you act healthily, whether you've lost weight or you haven't lost weight, or you're in a health crisis or you're in a healthy state in your life, every day that you wake up and you're breathing, you're serving God. And I just want to bring that into everybody's consciousness and into my own on a deeper level. And having to prepare for teaching really helps me dig into this even more. And I'm really honored that you guys all showed up and came. So I have the opportunity to study it in more depth in order to teach it. So let's open up. Anybody have a story about bitachon that they've seen in their life? I'm going to ask this every week. And you could share with me privately, you could share it here. But the more that we share, the more that we'll see it in our life the same way someone else said it in their life. They're like, oh my gosh, yes. Next time you're in that situation, you'll want to try to apply it too. So it's always like a good thing. And like you said, it's not something you have to be worthy of. So it's not a brag to say, oh, I saw trust in God show up for me here. It's nothing to do with our worthiness. So anybody have anything they want to share?
Can I ask a question, Lily?
Yes.
So I really appreciate your teaching this. It just showcases one of your another one of your talents to us, and it's really beautiful. I learned a lot from just hearing you read. I've read this myself, but hearing you read it was very helpful. On page 28, and we didn't read this part, but it jumped out at me because it was in bold.
Yes.
So the first bold, that's the first line that's in bold on page 28. Wait till you get there.
Okay.
It says, as when we face hardship and choose to respond with firm bitachon, we're advancing a relationship with God that bypasses the spiritual system.
Hold on. I got to look up 20. I was going to look at 28 ahead, but you mean 28 in the Roman numerals?
In the forward.
30, 29, 28. Got it. This work is supposed to try to.
When we face the hardship line.
What?
Are you in the forward? No, in the forward. In the forward of the 28.
In the forward. 28.
Page.
What is 28?
Oh, I'm sorry. It says, sorry, it's not
okay.
page 28. It said footnote 28. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, got it. I was like, okay.
I'm sorry. I gave you the wrong
28.
page.
See, Tanya. Okay, yeah, I got it. Footnote 28. Let's read it again. I'm here.
When we face hardship and choose to respond with a firm bitachon, we are advancing a relationship with God that bypasses the spiritual system. The first line that's highlighted.
Okay, I am at footnote 28. It says, see, Tanya. And it says that we face hardship, we choose to respond when we become, we advance a relationship with God and bypass the spiritual system. Yes. You want to know what that means?
Yeah, I don't understand what it means about bypassing the spiritual system.
Okay. So if you learn Tanya, which is what this is referring to, or there's a great book called I have it here. Hold on. I have it right here, the book. Don't I? I did have it here. Hold on. Okay, I do have it somewhere in this room. I don't know where it is. There's a great book called The Practical Guide to Kabbalah. I'll put a picture of it in the WhatsApp group. And it explains these levels of kind of concealment, that there's like the same way the physical world has gravity, the spiritual world has rules. And the same way God is above any physical rules because he created them, he is also above any spiritual rules because he created those as well. So when we face hardship and we choose to respond with bitachon, we are advancing our relationship with God that bypasses a spiritual system. A spiritual system means that there's concealment, that God is hiding his light and his ownership of the world. Because if we walked around knowing that everything is God, we wouldn't have our own separate identity, right? All the time. And so in order for us to maintain a separate identity, if all of existence is really God, like there has to be like some level of concealment so that we have our own ego and our own personality and our own existence. To know that really we're connected to everybody else in the world and to all things on such a profound spiritual way, it's hard to maintain that mindset. Like it's not really possible to think that way all the time. So when we kind of lean into the bitachon, we're saying it doesn't matter that my physical experience or my spiritual experience should be that I don't see this as revealed good. Like it can come in another way anyway. It can come revealed. It can come. We can ask God to say, hey, I don't see how this situation is going to be for my good. Okay, please show me very clearly. Make it clear to me. And then we have to look, right? We have to create a vessel. We have to look for how it could be good. But like we can also ask, like there are so many times, right? Like my husband's gone for 3 weeks on this trip, this business trip. And knowing for this next 6 months that this was going to be the situation 6 months ago, I did this special prayer that you could say for 40 days, like with one thing in mind. And it's supposed to and the whole prayer is discussing God's greatness, that he is better than the physical world and he created the spiritual world, right? It's basically this. And if you say that really intentionally on something that's concerning you, it's supposed to end up for revealed good. And I don't know yet how this 6 months is gonna, in the end, be such tremendous revealed good in our marriage that we had to be apart and all these things had to happen the way they've had to happen. But I can tell you that we only have 3 weeks left in the last, 5 weeks of this whole process, and we're doing pretty well. So could have gone really the other way, and so it's really looking for at the end of this process, look back and be like, wow, look how we grew. Look what we discovered. Look at this. Be willing to see it as the revealed good. And also obviously it's been pretty good if I don't have too many complaints. That's my personal perspective. Again, I'm not a rabbitson and I'll play one on Zoom. And I'm certainly not an expert in Kabbalah, but that is how I see this, meaning. But anybody who has any other thoughts, feel free to share. Anybody else have a question? Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Such a sweet message. Okay, so that's the forward. I'm going to give kind of just one idea. The thing that has been the best for me in learning this book is 1 page a day. So we are going to do a chapter a week. We're going to go or I don't know, we're going to do a chapter a week. We're going to start with the introduction. I'm going to see, I'm going to prepare and highlight the, areas ahead of time. But really, we're going to go through everything. And even if it takes us 2 weeks to do a chapter, so what? What else do we have to do, right? This is a lifelong endeavor. And we're going to go through the book. But I really recommend you guys do 1 page a day. What's the WhatsApp group link? Let's put that in here because then we're gonna go. There we go. Okay, I'm putting it here in the chat. Figure out how to do that. Here we go. Paste. Okay. Oh, I sent it to somebody specifically. Hold on, let me send it to the whole group. Okay. Sorry, tech challenge there. Okay. So anyways, we're going to do this every Sunday night at this time till we finish the book. And I recommend that you do a page a day, as many days as you can in a row, just because we want to get it into our system as something we think about every day. So it's a great part of a morning routine. It's a great part, of anything that you're doing in your morning routine. And this also like really is getting you in the groove of just the more that you think about it when you're eating, when you're moving, when you're drinking, when you're interacting with other people. He's going to talk about all this stuff in the book. And you think, okay, like if this was for sure going to be good, could I be a little calmer? And you're going to forget it like 90% of the day if you're anything like me. But the more that we remind ourselves, the more likely we are more of the day to notice when we're feeling not like somebody's got our back, and we're gonna lean into it. So I hope you enjoyed today. The best thing that I would love is I would love to really hear your stories of how this is going to help you in your life, how you start to see God manifest things in your life for you. And you could send them to me privately, you could put them in the group. But really, they're treasures, and keep sharing them. Share the group. It's completely free. If you want to give a donation, I highly recommend dailygiving.org and doing $1 a day. And you could do it for me and do it in my split, but I think you should do it in yours and do it in something in an area in which you feel like you need more trust in your life, or you need more success or health. And that's a way that you can pay for this course if you feel a need to pay for it. Otherwise, this is coming from the bottom of my heart. I talk all day about nutrition and about mindset and about the physical tools to get our body feeling good. But without knowing that it's a spiritual work, it all comes down to feeling like vanity, and we don't ever put enough effort into it for the rest of our life. So this is a key part to whatever you do for your own personal health journey. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you all same time, same Zoom room next week. And I'd love to get daily feedback. Feel free to send me as much feedback as you want. And if we have more ideas about how we can continue to make things better, please feel free to share them. Have a wonderful week.